his example basically set the stage for everything. And since then, we've recognized, Bad Dog McCormick, Zeke Logan, Harold Bird, just to name a few. And one of my close friends who just passed away this year, Terry Trotter, who started the Pink Wig Project. All these people have made a difference in everybody's lives by watching what they did to go through that. And that's one of the weird things about us that's a little bit different from what all the other cancer organizations out there are doing. We're not raising money to take away from St. Jude or from West Cancer Center or from anybody. It's actually the contrary. We raise money to give it all to St. Jude and West Cancer Center and places like that. And we've been doing this now for our 4th year. This is our 2nd year for doing this strictly for St. Jude. And we have been really, really fortunate on getting a lot of inspirational people to come together from all these different facilities to share their examples so that people will learn how to fight through this disease and give themselves a fighting chance.
Well, that's the thing, John, is that it's such a scourge, the disease that we know of, and it requires such a mental and physical strength to deal with. I mean, obviously you have to go through a lot, and depending on what your therapy is, it's an extremely grueling, draining process. But as we talked about Jerry Finney a number of occasions, if your mind isn't right, and if you don't have the proper mental approach, then it's very, very difficult. And what you guys do to support and lift people up, I think, is such an important part of it.
And that's what we are trying to do. Courage Thru Cancer exists basically to become an umbrella of cancer patients to come together under one roof, no matter if you're with St. Jude, MD Anderson, West Cancer Center, wherever. It doesn't really matter. We're trying to basically tear down the walls that separate a lot of these institutions and bring everybody together under one roof at least one night a year to be able to let everybody know that we are all in this fight together and we are trying to uplift people through this disease while everybody else is out there trying to find the physical cure for everyone else.
I can't say enough about what MD Anderson is doing down in Houston, Texas, because they are making great advancements, and one of the beneficiaries of that, who will be on the stage, Courage Thru Cancer at Minglewood Hall, is the Collierville coach, Mike O'Neill. And Mike had to leave the sidelines last year during the football season. He's back. He'll face Olive Branch tomorrow. Good morning, Mike. And, really just congratulations on this fight that you had. And if you don't mind, sort of go through what went on with you last year, first finding out what happened and what you had to fight through. Good morning.
Good morning, Dave. How are you guys doing?
We're doing well.
Peter, John.
Good morning.
Fantastic. Appreciate the phone call. It's kind of been a crazy year. I guess week 8 of the season, we're playing Houston, and I was diagnosed that Wednesday prior to that Friday. So I kind of, I didn't want to tell the entire team prior to the game because I knew it would be a complete distraction. So I went in. I got news from MD Anderson that I was going to get admitted to their hospital a week later, so I coached another game, but I left right before the playoffs, and then I was roughly there for 5 months. And, made my way back to Collierville back in March, and just kind of, got back into school and started the process again. So I'm thrilled to be back, and it's a great time to be in Collierville right now with, our new school system, and our new high school and athletic facilities. So
I must say, I saw on the Commercial Appeal Digital, there was a video of you when you had first come back, and the band came and played, and the cheerleaders were there, and I'm getting choked up just thinking about it right now. But when I watched that video, it really choked me up. I can't imagine what it must have been like for you, because here you are, you have gone through this fight, and you're surviving 4th stage cancer. Not many people do that. And then you get to feel the love of everybody. That has to make you feel so special.
It was overwhelming. Mr. Blanchard set that up, and the administration, and it was my first day back. And we start school around here at 7 o'clock, and it was first period, and I get a knock on the door, and I open the door, and the band is playing our fight song, and it about blew me back in the classroom. I mean, it was just so loud, but it was just. It was overwhelming. The cheer, the pom team were there, and it was, and all the sponsors and a lot of teachers, and it was really overwhelming. It was such a nice gesture, but the community of Collierville and Memphis had so many just very nice gestures, and sent me great notes, and did some fundraisers and that sort of thing. So I've been extremely blessed, Dave. I appreciate that.
Well, and that's the whole idea, Mike, and the way that we've discussed this with John in the past, and folks that have supported. Can you describe not only that emotional moment that you discussed earlier, but throughout the process, the importance of attitude, the importance of support, the importance of strength, the importance of doing the things that you needed to do, not just physically, and the folks at MD Anderson and everyone working, with the chemotherapy and the other therapies that you had, but from your own approach.
Right. Well, my own approach was this. I had to really listen to my doctors. I knew I was up against the wall. They basically told me, they staged me at a 4. And my wife was really, I turned into the player. My wife was the coach. She was the driving force. She kind of led the blocking, so to speak. And we had charts in the apartment. We had, schedules going. We had this and that. And I had to turn into a really good patient. And but I had to bring attitude every day. They gave me a percentage that I could that I could get through this, which I felt like was a pretty good percentage. They gave me 80%. But they said it wasn't going to be a walk in the park. It was going to be extremely difficult. And I said, whatever you got, I can take it. I'm tough. And so day in and day out, it was, I had to take, I had to put a mask on me and pin me down to a table and give me radiation for an hour at a time. And then, I developed second-degree burns on my neck. So all my skin on my neck was peeled off. It was a struggle to swallow water. My main goal there was to keep off the feeding tube because I didn't want that thing in my stomach for 4 months after my recovery. So I was very blessed and fortunate that I was able to continue to chew and swallow and get through this. And yeah, it was the toughest thing I ever did. But the approach and the attitude is a big part of it. But also too, I was getting texts from kids I used to coach at Christian Brothers, and obviously my current players and former players from Collierville, and they were like, "Coach, you have this. You can do it. Remember all the things you used to tell us in 2 days." And I had no choice. I had to roll up my sleeves and get after it. So it was an intense process, but incredible doctors and this support team, and my wife was the driving force in it.
We all have to have our coaches. There's no question about that. And I know you're going to speak on November the 9th at Minglewood. So what exactly will that message be in that short period of time that you get up there and share?
Yeah, just to kind of, talk about the process and really having that courage and that attitude to get through, and overcoming or, battling. Everybody's at different stages of cancer. It's a terrible disease. I've learned quite a bit about it over the past few months, obviously. And, I met a lot of people and their stories in Houston and in Memphis and what they've gone through and really just trying to give that message of hope. I'd like to talk, a little bit about Trey Erwin. And, he was a young man that was diagnosed my first year as a head coach. And we all know, most of us in the sporting community know that story. And this young man was a battler. And, he kind of built the foundation for me to take this on. I guarantee you he was one of my angels looking down upon me to get through this process. But, really just talk about the process and moving forward. Life beyond cancer and being in remission and, looking forward to the future and being blessed.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about this year's event, the connection to who he was just talking about, Trey Erwin, back in 2012. This young man, 15 years old, is diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, which that is an old person's or an adult disease. And when they took him to St. Jude did not have anybody to handle that kind of disease at all. So they went out to West Cancer Center with it. And Mike was Trey's coach. And the connection between that family is unparalleled. He gave the eulogy at Trey's funeral back in 2012, and I've talked to dozens of people that sat there and said that it was the most powerful and most inspirational speech that they've ever heard at any funeral before. And to think 5 years later, Mike contracts this, very deadly disease, but he used and channeled the strength of Trey to help him fight through this, because he used that kid's no-quit attitude. And so these families the Erwins and the O'Neills are interconnected with this, and we're going to do something the night of our event to basically tie in those two, because this is a really important message that Courage Thru Cancer is really trying to get out there. We have the world-class cancer facility in the city of Memphis for pediatric cancer with St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. We have other adults in this town that are going to West. Some have to go to MD Anderson because it's so advanced that they are the only place that can take care of some of these experimental and radical therapies to save people's lives. What we are doing now is forging the connection between pediatric and adult cancers to make sure that everybody understands we are all in this fight together. This is not just one person that's going to go through this. It's not an adult disease. It's not a kid's disease. It's an everybody disease. And the great thing that Trey and Mike do is they unite that message so clearly, because everybody draws upon one another in this fight. You have to find that one thing that you fight for in order to inspire. And that's the thing about Mike that touches me so much, because having played football, albeit maybe 1 or 2 years in high school, having somebody like that as a leader of men already, like you said, when he came back to school, you had the band, you had the cheerleaders, everybody around his classroom hall, his office hall, and he opens the door to see that. He's now a leader of everybody, not just of young men, and that's why Mike O'Neill is going to be celebrated for this event, because he is truly an example for all of us to learn from.
Well, I know he's tough, because there's not very many percentage-wise that come back from stage 4, so we are very grateful for that, Coach O'Neill. And since I've got you here, and we are a sports program,
Yes, sir.
You've got Olive Branch tomorrow night.